Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the end of week 6. And hey, yo, fellas, we are breaking down a Monday Night Football slate that on paper heading into the game is going to look better than what Sunday Night Football had to offer, not just talent-wise, quarterbacks-wise, overall. When you get the Buffalo Bills playing, last time we saw them was in prime time looking damn cute against the Kansas City Chiefs. And now you get the Titans, who are getting some of their artillery, right? They're getting their weapons. They're loading up their arsenal with Julio Jones expected back. A.J. Brown may be limited. I'm not buying it, but we'll see what ends up happening there with their fellas back. And Derrick Henry continues to run the ball, setting all types of records, on pace for rushing and yardage with that extra 17th game, breaking all of it. So let's break down this showdown slate. We're back to $1 million prize pools, $2.25 million in play on DraftKings, prize picks and SuperDraft and everything we can break down for this slate. And we go player by player. So if you're brand new here, hope you're having a lovely weekend and a lovely start to your week. The best day of the week is indeed Monday. And if it's not for you, you got to change whatever makes you dread your Mondays. So let's get into it now. One thing I ask, there it is. Subscribe button pops up. Just tap that bad boy as we continue to grow this here channel. Thank you to all the beautiful people out there. We'll slide now into the showdown breakdown. So we're going to start in salary order here, and I'm just going to let you know if they're a yes, a maybe, or a no for me. And we'll be live about 6 p.m. East Coast time for this Monday night slate to kind of finalize some things. We'll see what the final ownership is looking like. I've had player projections, ownership projections, rankings, and optimizer, all that if you want to check it out down below on Patreon. But we'll be able to finalize your questions and answers Q&A stream before lock. But for right now, everything that we're looking at with my current projections and ownership not being finalized, you start up top with $12,800 Josh Allen, who's going to find himself, as he has been all season long, averaging 26 standard league points per game with the DraftKings bonus over 27 fantasy points per game. He looks solid. He looks fantastic in this matchup. If anything, should encourage you because he's going to have a positive pass blocking advantage against the number 29 through 5 weeks, number 29 pass rush of the Tennessee Titans. He's thrown the ball 36.5 times per game, 274 passing yards per game, and oh yeah, very quietly, 4th in the NFL with 38 rushing yards per game. It's hard to see any way that this Titans secondary, which the secondary itself, for the fact that they're not getting much pressure or pass rush, the secondary has actually been pretty solid, but it's tough to see them containing Mr. Josh Allen. Now, he's the most expensive player in the slate, and he's a yes for me. I would prefer, even though he's more expensive than Derrick Henry, give me Josh Allen in this one. They both have really nice team implied totals. This is not a game. Yeah, sure. They're 5.5 point underdogs, 5 point underdogs. I actually took Tennessee plus 5.5 in this one, and they're going to be coming in, and I actually leaned the under in this game as well. They're coming in as underdogs, but it's only a 5.5 point spread. Like, if this game stays within a touchdown the whole time, Derrick Henry is still getting his normal 20 plus carries, so it keeps him firmly in play. He is on pace to absolutely smash the single season rushing attempts and yardage record. Already through 5 games, 640 rushing yards, 7 total touchdowns, and over 140 carries on the ground. I do believe that this whole, Derrick Henry's passing game role, it's completely overhyped. I mean, you saw Jeremy McNichols in like their worst game script that they've had all season long since really game 1 against Arizona. You see Jeremy McNichols in that one have 12 targets. You've seen now over the last 3 weeks just 5 total targets for Derrick Henry in his last 3 games. So this whole, after the second week when he saw 6 targets and everybody's jumping up and down, 3 weeks later, and you're really looking at the same Derrick Henry role of averaging less than right around a target to a target and a half per game. So Derrick Henry for me is firmly in play. I would prefer Josh Allen. I think you're getting a safer floor, a way better median projection out of Josh Allen right now for me, over about 6 to 7 more points. And even ceiling wise, Derrick Henry has that superstar smash ceiling at 40 to 50 points, but so does Josh Allen, news alert. So Derrick Henry remains in play, but I do prefer Josh Allen to him. Now you get the quarterback Ryan Tannehill here, which if you're looking at the price points of a $9,800 Ryan Tannehill, sure, he has struggled this year, but for most of the season, since basically week 2, he's been dealing with not having A.J. Brown out there or fully healthy and not having Julio Jones out there for now basically 3 full games with both those guys being down. So can you blame Ryan Tannehill for his numbers slipping? But rarely on showdown slates do you see a solid quarterback who, coming into this year before these past 5 games of playing with guys that he's never played with, like relying on Josh Reynolds and Chester Rogers and Nick Westbrook, relying on those guys, it's going to hurt your production. Before those games, we were looking at Ryan Tannehill as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So he's not going to have a great pass blocking advantage here. His offensive line right now ranks number 26 in pass blocking, and he's going to be facing a top 10 pass rush in Buffalo. So that's not great for him, but you're getting right now 35 attempts per game, and they should be trailing in this one. So maybe that bumps up closer to the 40 plus attempts that you got to see them throw for when they were trailing in a recent game. And you're also getting 250 passing yards per game, again, when he's throwing to fucking Nick Westbrook and Cameron Batson. So I actually like this price point that we're getting a whole lot, and I have Ryan Tannehill as a yes on this slate. I do think you could play both quarterbacks. Depends really on how you're building out your lineup. Obviously, with Josh Allen being expensive, it makes it difficult to. I probably lean to play one, but you get to $9,600 Steph Diggs, and when you're looking at comparing Ryan Tannehill to Steph Diggs, like if you had to make it, the answer might be play both of them, but if you wanted to say I just want one of these guys, how do you not choose Steph Diggs for $200 less? He has, based on my projections, a way higher ceiling. I have him projected for more points right now than Ryan Tannehill. He currently on the season is underperforming what his expectation is. He's going to absolutely pop one of these games. He has number 2 right now in air yards. He still has a top 6 target share in the NFL at over 27%, seeing 9.5 targets per game. He's just not finding the end zone yet, right? Like you got Steph Diggs early on in the season finding the end zone in a quick little slant round, and then after that he's getting tackled at the 1 yard line, and Emmanuel Sanders is getting these deep bomb touchdowns. Eventually Emmanuel Sanders is going to stop scoring 5 touchdowns in 3 games, right? And that's going to start to filter out elsewhere. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders is going to end up this season with somewhere around 30 touchdowns, right? It's not going to happen. So all these performances from Steph Diggs of 70 yards on 7 catches and only 14 points don't look great, but you start to throw touchdowns into those and it looks like what he was doing last year. Now he hasn't had that big Steph Diggs 150-yard game. I'm not shocked to see him have it here though, but the big thing here is the price point for what you get out of a median projection and a ceiling. Steph Diggs has a top 3 ceiling, probably top 2 ceiling right now on this entire slate. He is a wide receiver 1, just not yet producing there, only 1 game over 70 yards, but that is a little bit, 69 yards in 1 game, 67 in another. He's had 1 play called back on a 30-yard touchdown this year, tackled out the 1 yard line. He's running very bad in variance, and that's why you're getting these favorable price tags on him for a guy who's normally $10,000 plus on Showdown slates. Now, next up, you have Emmanuel Sanders here, his teammate is going to have to continue to score touchdowns to now pay off these new price tags. Like Emmanuel Sanders is getting so much great usage, 72% of the snaps or more in every game, and at least 5 targets in every game. But now he's $8,600. He's no longer a $7,000 Showdown play like he was last week against the Chiefs or earlier this year when he's in the 5K range. He is right now $8,600. He's the 5th most expensive play on the slate. So 5 targets a game is not going to get it done. This price tag right now is saying that you better be getting 7 to 8 targets, or at least on those 5 targets, paying it off with touchdowns, which he has been. He has 5 touchdowns over the last 3 games, 3 straight weeks with at least 13 plus points because of the touchdown production, and he's top 5 in the NFL with a 16.1 average depth per target. But here's the thing about Emmanuel Sanders. I can't put him as a yes. He's very close in price, $1,000 difference between Steph Diggs, who is right now seeing more overall air yards and is just seeing more volume. He currently is seeing almost double, over 4 actually targets more per game right now for Steph Diggs, and you're getting out of Emmanuel Sanders. It's really, really difficult to like Emmanuel Sanders at this price point. Last week, I actually said he was one of the leverage plays at $7,000 on the slate because that's still an affordable price tag. On this slate right now, $8,600 starts to become restrictive when you're choosing him over the likes of Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and in a similar price range to Steph Diggs. So he remains in play because he's running these routes, right? He's running 30 routes in most of these games when they actually drop back and pass 35 to 40 times with Josh Allen, but he can't be a priority at this price tag for me. Next up, you have to make a decision here on if you trust A.J. Brown, who in an interview said that the Titans are not going to give him his full snaps until week 10, which we're in week 6, the last game of week 6, and I don't believe this because in week 5, A.J. Brown came back from injury, and he ran a route on 92% of Ryan Tannehill's dropbacks. Now, it was only 22 routes run because they were able to run the ball a lot in that game and control the game against Jacksonville, especially in the second half. But A.J. Brown, I don't believe what he's saying here. Now, in 3 full games this year, he has a couple of drops, only 10 catches for 130 yards and a touchdown on 23 targets. Julio Jones is now going to return in this game. I think Julio Jones, there's an argument to be made that he's actually the wide receiver 1 for this specific year on this team. A lot of people listening to that will say, you're crazy, because all off season when they're listening to their favorite podcasts in April, May, and June, everybody's saying, A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown, A.J. Brown, Julio's so old. And well, Julio's going out there and so far in the games they both played this year looks miles better, not only because he can catch the ball, not dropping it, but looks miles better at separation and actual physicality than what A.J. Brown. Maybe he's dealing with injury, but right now that all factors into, I think, Julio Jones is probably the wide receiver 1A to the 1B of A.J. Brown on this team. And if that's the logic that I'm going with, if that's what my projections right now, I have a higher projection on Julio Jones than A.J. Brown, you save massive amounts of money when we get down to Julio Jones at just $6,600. So A.J. Brown, for me, I'm not buying this that he's on a limited snap count thing. I really don't see how that's the case. After last week, he was nowhere near on a limited snap count and there was no setbacks suffered. So I don't see how that's what he's saying that they told him before last week's game when the bullets started flying and they didn't do it. So I think he's fine. I think there's upside for him if people start to believe that narrative. So he will be, because of this price tag of $7,800, definitely a yes. There's no reason why you can't have a 6-catch, 90-yard touchdown game or a 100-yard game out of A.J. Brown this week. I'm not expecting him to be limited. And before we continue, now that we've talked about Stefon Diggs and A.J. Brown, I want to let you know about the props that I've taken. I have Stefon Diggs over 82.5 yards. I have him right now at 91 yards for this game. It's a solid matchup. Not a lot of pressure coming Josh Allen's way. Expect Allen to continue to target him downfield. Diggs number 2 in air yards. So we take over 82.5. By the way, this is just player props. You take the over-unders. Very simple, on yardage, on receptions, whatever you want to do. This is the prop I'm taking. You can follow it. And if Josh Allen throws for 1 passing yard, in this game, that's it. It's basically going to happen. You get your first bet matched up to $100. So your first prop matched up to $100 if he throws for 1 yard. Basically, you're getting $100 either way. So if you lose that bet, they will give you $100. If you win that bet, they'll also give you $100 to play with. So that's how they're getting you to their platform. That is prizepicks.com. You have to use the code SAL, S-A-L, to take advantage of that offer. The second part of that, and this is not a parlay, it's a flex play, is over on A.J. Brown's receiving yards. I think everybody, including the Prize Picks lines maker right now, is believing that A.J. Brown is going to be limited. I'm not buying it because he played 92% of the dropbacks he ran a route on last week. So if you're getting 30 routes as an underdog in this game out of A.J. Brown, and his receiving number is 59.5 when he sees his 8 to 9 targets in this game, yeah, I'm going to take his normal yards per reception and yards per target of double digits and smash this number when he goes for 70 to 80 plus yards. So we take the over A.J. Brown, we take the over Stefon Diggs, we pair them together, Josh Allen throws for 1 yard, and bam, there you go. You get a free up to $100 into your account, whatever your first bet is. Remember, use the code, my name's simple, SAL, S-A-L, to get that offer. Yet another player on the Bills who's been running hot with touchdowns lately is Dawson Knox, scoring a touchdown in 4 straight games. And Dawson Knox, you cannot play him at this price tag. He's $7,600. He is similarly priced to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, actual wide receivers with downfield usage, monsters, some of the highest speed and size specimens, right up there with DK Metcalf in the entire NFL. And now over his last 4 games, he's averaging about 80% of the snaps per game. He saw a season high 91% of the snaps versus the Chiefs, which actually cut into Cole Beasley's role on this team. And he scored a touchdown in 4 straight games. If he's not scoring a touchdown, though, you're not getting these insane yardage games out of Dawson Knox or anything. It's not like Dawson Knox is going out there and catching 7 balls for 70 yards and actually remaining in play just based off of his usage in the offense and not from touchdowns. Like at least Emmanuel Sanders, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's getting enough downfield usage where I can see a 5-catch, 100-yard game and still somehow being relevant for you at his price tag, which keeps him in play. But Dawson Knox, so far this year, you had against the Chiefs a 117-yard day, right, with that big broken touchdown. But other than that, you haven't had a game over 50 yards. So are we really going to say that, okay, he had a broken play against the Chiefs last week, and that's propping him all the way up here to $7,600 for a tight end who most of the year on Showdown slates, and whether it's on the main slate ones, the Sunday night slates, this guy's been in the 5 to 4K range. I can't pay $7,600. If he scores 2 touchdowns and burns us, that's completely fine. But at this price tag, if you want to keep him in play and put him as a maybe, sure. But at this price tag, he is currently my worst play on the slate, not named the defense. So basically, Titans defense is my worst play on the slate. Other than that, it's actually Dawson Knox at this price tag, so I'll put him as a no for now. So yet again, we start to have more players that are, again, from the Bills because of how good they're playing right now, overpriced. Now, I think this one's at least a little bit more fair because he is operating as the running back 1, and that is Zach Moss over these last couple of weeks, but it's not anything insane. He's still just averaging 11.3 routes run per game, and he's still just seeing 11.5 attempts per game. Although you're coming off of a week where he saw a season high in snaps and Singletary saw a season low in the 20s in snaps, that's very good for Zach Moss. He's still not getting elite usage because this team just doesn't run the ball in general. It's as simple as that. And Josh Allen runs the ball a good amount, being used as a battering ram last week against the Chiefs, running a lot more. So he's a touchdown or bust guy, and he does have 4 touchdowns this year, but I can't get behind a guy who's going to see 2 targets in this game, and you're lucky if he sees 12 carries. That's a good thing out of him. So you're going to get maybe 14 opportunities in this game from a $7,000 running back on a guy who has a quarterback who is used just as often in the red zone as him. It's tough to see it. I know he has this nice red zone role. I know the role is slowly starting to grow for him, but if Zach Moss goes out there and has 11 touches for 70 yards, that is an insane game. 11 touches for 70 yards, that's great. He's got 7 fantasy points at 7K. Even if he scores a touchdown, 13 fantasy points at 7K, that's solid. That's what you want to see, but it's not winning you the slate. So Zach Moss for me remains in play because of the fact that you can see a 2-touchdown game, but other than that, it's very, very flimsy, I would say. He's a little bit overpriced. I currently have his price point should be somewhere more so around this $6,500 to $6,400 range at the highest point, and really 6K where my median median would be on him. Now, one of the best plays on the slate, it's pretty obvious, unless we get news that Julio is limited. I don't know how you have a $6,600 Julio Jones when he's actually out there and playing this year. He looks pretty solid. In 2 full games, he's seen 14 targets, 150 total yards, should have a touchdown as well and 9 receptions. That one was somehow overturned, even though nothing on the replay showed that. In his 2 games, he's ran 26 and 38 routes. He'll find a difficult spot here against the #1 rated secondary, according to Pro Football Focus, in Buffalo right now, but you should expect increased volume in terms of the routes run and targets. So Julio Jones for me is a clear yes. I currently have Julio Jones projected out for more points than A.J. Brown, who's way more expensive than him. Julio Jones right now, outside of he's right around the Emmanuel Sanders projection for me, which would make him like the 4th highest projected guy in the slate, 4th or 5th, even though he's nowhere near the price points of all those $8,000 players. This is a complete misprice. Now, coming into last week, I thought Cole Beasley was also a misprice, and not only did you see his role continue to shrink, it shrunk in a major way down to the 30 percentile in snaps. He's now seen his snaps drop in 3 straight weeks from 67%, then it goes to the 50s, and then this past week 39%, as Dawson Knox, the tight end, was on the field a lot more at 91% of his snaps. You've only seen 30 total routes out of Cole Beasley these last 2 games, leading to just 4 targets, 3 catches, 21 yards. That is very bad. This is a full-time player on the team. Is he banged up? Is Emmanuel Sanders just now the clear number 2, and they want to use Dawson Knox even more now in the slot as a number 3? This is a little bit concerning. So even though his price tag is fair at $5,400, and I have him projecting out yet again nicely around 12 fantasy points, that's very good. That's to get him in almost all of your lineups yet again, like last week. Him and Julio start there and go from there. But I can't just ignore what we're seeing these last 2 weeks. Now, again, it is just a 2-week sample in a 17-game season. He has 2 13-target games on the year. Don't be shocked to see Cole Beasley go 7 catches, 90 yards, and maybe he finds the end zone. So Cole Beasley, for me, I'm going to go right back in here, and I'm going to say he is a yes. He is a yes because I don't want to overreact to 2-game samples, right? I don't want to overreact to that at all. So if you're just hurt from last time playing Cole Beasley and he didn't do anything against the Chiefs and he only had 1 catch, for 5 yards, terrible. I completely understand. Just don't play him. But based off of everything that I'm seeing, I cannot just solely anoint after the last game and a half or so that Cole Beasley is no longer a part of this offense after being for the last year and a half a massive piece of this offense, right? So Cole Beasley, for me, is going to have to remain in play. Next up, you get a somewhat expensive Bills defense, but I guess it's kind of justified. There's enough value that you don't have to go there. They rank pretty much borderline top 12 to top 10 and everything. If anything, their tackling is not that great, but a top 10 pass rush, a top 10 run defense, or number 12 run defense, depending on the metrics you look at, and number 1 secondary. We'll just say that they're in play. If you follow my content, you know I'm not really that invested in kickers or defenses on a lot of these showdown slates. Devin Singletary is an interesting cat, though. Devin Singletary is losing his role. His snaps went from week 1 being 75% when Zach Moss was a healthy scratch to now week 5, times have changed, down to 28% of the snaps. Looked like he was a little nicked up, but nothing crazy in that game. But the big thing is that you only have him running 13 total routes over the last 2 games, leading to 3 targets and a season low 6 attempts last week. So again, it is a small sample here, but the tides have been turning for about 3 weeks now of Zach Moss getting the red zone role, Zach Moss running more routes. Now Zach Moss taking on the workhorse 1 role against the Chiefs. Again, we don't know if there's a little bit of an injury that's concerning into that, but Devin Singletary at this price tag of $4,600, if you're not going to get 10 plus opportunities out of him and you're getting 6 or 7, he's massively overpriced. So Singletary for me is somebody that I'll barely keep in play, as I have him projecting out for around 8 points. You can check out all my projections over on Patreon, the Optimizer Discord of over 940 people now. Rankings, ownership, a bunch of other stuff, matchup notes for every single matchup. Check it all out. Come join the community. Load up your weapons, double barrel shotguns, load them up, cha-ching right there, because if you don't have that, I'm sorry, but 940 people do that you're going to be playing against. And when you're just trying to go off of your quote-unquote smarts, again, this video should help you, but you're not getting the overall package. You're going into war with, maybe a water gun, and these people are coming into war with a motherfucking machete and a motherfucking sawed-off double barrel shotgun. So it's tough. So Patreon members, go get your shotguns, your double barrels, go get them down below. Don't worry. Hey, disclaimer, YouTube. There's not real guns here. It's a figure of speech. Calm the fuck down, people. We now get to Chester Rogers, who will go back to his role as the wide receiver 3, who was having success in that role even when Julio and A.J. Brown were active. Week 1 scoring a touchdown, right? So he's seen at least 5 or more targets in 3 out of the 5 games this year, playing at least 45% of the snaps, so he'll be on the field in every single game so far. And the last time they were down big against the Jets, he ran 44 routes. So in this game, expect probably 4 to 5 targets out of Chester Rogers. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's basically useless, but at $4,400, we'll keep him in play. You're looking at more times than not here, though, like a 3-catch, 30-yard type of a game. We can go to Anthony Firstger now, who couldn't get anything done even when there was no AJ Brown out there and no Julio Jones out there. He only ran 11 routes last week, just seeing 4 targets, not good. His best game when he returned from injury, when there was no Julio Jones, when there was no AJ Brown or a banged up AJ Brown, he ended up seeing just 5 targets in that game, 3 catches, 22 yards on 39 routes run. So now that Julio's back, it really hurts him. I would say this is another player. This is a Devin Singletary type player where, yeah, he'll stay in play because if he scores a touchdown on the showdown slate, but he's not that enticing. The players on this slate, Titans defense is the worst play on the slate, by the way. I'm not really interested in playing them at $3,600. Could they get an interception on Josh Allen? Sure, but $3,600, they're about $800 overpriced based on my projections. They're currently the worst play on the slate, 3.8 projected points. But there's not much value here. I don't really want to play the defenses. The kickers look good, I will say that. Both kickers are in play. They always are. I play at most one, but I'm fine not getting to one. Both kickers look pretty solid this week. I can't say anything about that. But if you don't want to play a kicker, which I normally don't, where are you going at value? You're touchdown or bust on Anthony Firstger. Touchdown or bust on Chester Rogers and Devin Singletary. Not really great rolls out of any of those players at all, right? You're going to get 18 to 20 routes out of Chester Rogers, and if he doesn't score a touchdown, 3 catches, 30 yards, right? So we can keep going up. Like Bills defense, kind of expensive. Cole Beasley, a little bit shaky right now, and he's not even that valuable because he's above 5K. He's not cheap value, right? So this is now back-to-back slates with the Sunday Night Football one that we're struggling to find value, and oh yeah, Jeremy McNichols is not the answer to that. His pass-catching role is overrated. He saw a fluky 12-target, 8-catch game against the Jets. What has he come out and done after that? Absolutely nothing. And now Darrington Evans is expected to be back from IR. He might be back if he's activated by 4 p.m. today for this game. So this is all concerning. By the way, I'm recording this actually on Sunday ahead of time because my power is going to go out Monday morning and I won't be able to. They're shutting it all down. So I'm recording this on Sunday in case we do get news on Darrington Evans or anything else. That is why it's not being mentioned here just yet. We'll talk about it in the live stream later today. By the way, hit this fucking subscribe button. What are you doing if you're not? But if you take away that one game, right? If you take away that one game where he sees this fluky game of 12 targets, it's not sustainable. It's just not going to happen again, especially if Evans returns, of course. He's only seen 10 total targets on the year and 16 total touches in the other 4 games. I'm not paying $3,000 for a running back who's going to touch the ball 3, 4, maybe 5 times. Now, you can tell me that they're going to trail on this game when he sees more targets. You can go ahead and pay $3,000 for that because there's no other value, and there is a chance that he can go out there and see 5 catches for 30 yards in this game. If they are trailing, it's only a 5.5 point spread, and I think that number is large. It should be closer to 3, in my opinion, as home dogs. Then sure, maybe he sees some more targets in this game if there's no Evans. $3,000, though, is a steep price point for a guy who projects out for less than 5 points for me. And trust me, the value doesn't get any better. Gabriel Davis, yeah, he scored a touchdown week 1. Other than that, he's done absolutely jack shit. He's literally done nothing since then. He's had 2 catches, 39 yards, and 3 targets since that week 1 game, and he's ran just 31 routes. So he's running about 7 to 8 routes per week. Gabriel Davis, for me, is somebody that I personally don't want to play. You want to throw a punt on him because he might score a touchdown because he's going to run 8 to 10 routes. Emmanuel Sanders isn't leaving the field right now, and neither is Steph Diggs. So there's no way Gabriel Davis is getting on the field, especially with the increased role for Dawson Knox. So for me, I'm not really interested. A player that I really like, I liked him when he was on the Colts. I liked him in the preseason before he got hurt. I wanted to play him potentially last week, but I figure, AJ Brown's back. It's not worth it. But Marcus Johnson, 1,400. If there was no Julio in this game, I'd say, yeah, Marcus Johnson looks good. He's this big monster type player on the outside. He's a huge dude, and he's got speed. And he had 4 targets last week, caught 3 balls for 52 yards. But now with Julio back, his routes run of 20 from last week is going to drop to, at best, him running like 8 to 10 routes. So you can't go there. Michael Pruitt is the most touchdown or bust tight end that you'll ever find. He's only seen 2 targets on the year. He has a touchdown, but he's only running at this point like 4 routes per game. He is the stereotypical play action at the goal line, right? You get your play action to Derrick Henry at the goal line. Every fucking player jumps up on the defense, all 11 guys, and wide open in the corner of the end zone is Michael Pruitt. And here's the thing. Even at $600, even if he has the 1-yard, 1-catch touchdown for 7.1 fantasy points on DraftKings, it might not even be enough depending on how many points are scored in this game. It should be, but it probably, a lot of the times if they score a lot of points, it won't be. So I'm not interested in Pruitt. I'm not interested in Josh Reynolds, who now with Julio coming back is going to be at best on this team, the wide receiver 5, probably in what we saw last week, behind Marcus Johnson. I'm not interested in the tight end 2 on Buffalo when the tight end 1 last week just played 91% of the snaps, and when Tommy Sweeney has only ran 8 total routes on the year. Where is the value, people? Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie definitely can't be in play. We liked what he did in the preseason. We like that they randomly use him, but so far this year, they're not using him. Last 3 games, just 12 total routes and 0 catches. He only has 2 targets on the season, and he's only caught 1 ball for 1 yard. You can't go there. Jeffrey Swaim is interesting for some people because he's had like a couple of receptions, but when you actually see Anthony Firstger out there, you have Jeffrey Swaim so far this year with Firstger active, 0 catches on 2 targets. And a very similar thing can be said for Tommy Hudson. Tommy Hudson, people might want to go there because he caught a couple of balls, but that was when Firstger was actually inactive. When Firstger was inactive, he caught 3 balls for 31 yards on 4 targets. When Firstger was active these last 2 weeks, just 1 target on 5 total routes run for Tommy Hudson. So there's really nothing. I mean, if you wanted to take a stance, if you wanted to take a chance on Gabriel Davis at $2,000, who's going to run 6 routes in this game if all the other receivers stay healthy, and that means that he's probably $1,800 overpriced. Like, Gabriel Davis should be less than $1,000. He should probably be $400 to $600 on this slate. He's way too expensive. I don't know where else you go. I really don't know where the value is outside of the kickers. The kickers look like solid value. Anthony Firstger's touchdown or bust. Devin Singletary, Chester Rogers, touchdown or bust. And if you wanted to take a flyer on Jeremy McNichols, none of these guys, just like yesterday's slate, none of these guys offer all that much value for you, though. So there you go. There's your $1 million showdown slate. Like and subscribe before you go. Hey, Josh Allen throws for 1 yard. You get up to a free $100 depending on your first bet on Prize Picks for the player props. Tail the over on Diggs and the over on A.J. Brown because I don't think he's actually going to be limited. They're full of shit. He wasn't limited last week, so what are you talking about, A.J. Brown? Get over yourself. Monday Night Schmacks. Monday Night Schmackarooskies are there. We're going to be live at 6 p.m. East Coast time for an hour, answering your questions. We'll stay on longer if it's a spicy time, if you all bring your most stapper shirts and dresses to the ladies and the fellas out there. Appreciate you for tuning in. Before you go, hit the subscribe button. Before you go, hit the like button. Before you go, smack yourself in the face because you got all the information. And if you're not a Patreon and you're not loaded up right now with double barrel shotguns, pulling out your double Glocks right now, YouTube, chill the fuck out. This isn't legit. We're just talking here. We're joking around. You know, jokes, it's not a real thing. Movies is not a real thing. Just like the jokes, they're not a real thing. But if you don't got them motherfucking weapons when the bullets start flying in the DFS streets, I'm sorry. You're not going to be rising up the leaderboard. You're going to be falling like a dead body. Shout out Squid Game to the bottom. Red light, green light. Peace out.